It belongs to the same botanical family as the flower that gives the world morphine and heroin. And yet, you could steep it into a tea, drink a cup before bed, and wake the next morning with no craving, no physical dependence, and nothing to taper off of. It dulls pain. It settles a racing mind. It eases you down into sleep, and then it lets you go, without demanding more the next night. For a pivotal stretch of American history, one of the largest drug companies in the country sold it under almost that exact description, as a sleep aid and a pain reliever. And above all, a harmless one. What almost no one remembers now is why it ever left the pharmacy shelf. It was not because it stopped working. It was because no one could own it. This is the California poppy, the flower that sets the state's hillsides on fire every spring, the one children pick without a second thought, the same plant that careful doctors once reached for when morphine was simply too dangerous to give. Welcome to nature's lost vault. Long before it had an English name, the native peoples of what is now California already knew this flower intimately. Tribes across the region used the whole plant, the root, the leaf, and the petal, to ease pain, to soothe restless children, and to bring on sleep. When Spanish settlers arrived and saw entire hillsides glowing orange in the afternoon light, they called it Copa de Oro, cup of gold. The name we use today came from a ship. In the early 1800s, a Russian expedition sailed down the California coast, carrying a young surgeon and naturalist named Johann von Eschscholtz, a botanist on board named the Bright Little Flower in his honor, and the tongue-twisting Latin label stuck, Eschscholtzia californica. Here is the part that still surprises people. This cheerful roadside flower belongs to the poppy family, the very same family as Papaver somniferum, the opium poppy. They are botanical cousins, but they are not the same. The opium poppy carries morphine and codeine inside it. The California poppy does not. Not a trace. What it carries instead is a set of gentler plant compounds that work on the human body in a much softer register. They calm. They soothe. They loosen the physical grip of pain and worry. And they do it without the chemical hook that makes opium so dangerous. You do not build a habit. You do not chase a higher dose. That single difference is the entire story of what happened next. For a while, mainstream American medicine completely agreed. In 1890, the California poppy was proudly listed in the catalog of Parke-Davis, then one of the most powerful pharmaceutical houses in the world. Their own entry called it an excellent soporific and analgesic, and above all, harmless. A sleep aid and a painkiller you did not have to fear. That was not a fringe herbalist talking. That was a major drug company putting its corporate name behind the plant. And it had serious backing from the doctors of the day. There was an entire branch of American medicine built around plants like this one. They were called the Eclectic physicians, and they were not quacks. They ran fully accredited medical colleges, trained thousands of doctors, and wrote the definitive reference books those doctors carried in their leather bags. Two of the most respected, Harvey Wickes Felter and John Uri Lloyd, co-wrote King's American Dispensatory, one of the great medical texts of the era. They described the California poppy as an analgesic and soporific without the dangers attending opiates. It quieted pain, they wrote, and brought on a calm sleep. Think about what that meant in practice. When a patient was in real pain but could not tolerate opium, or when a doctor was afraid of what opium might do to them, this was the plant they reached for instead. A genuine pain reliever that would not enslave the person taking it. It was respectable. It was documented. It sat on pharmacy shelves right next to everything else. And for a brief moment, it looked like American medicine had found something profoundly rare. A safe answer to one of its oldest problems. That position seemed absolutely secure. It was not. The California poppy did not lose its medicine. It lost the people who stood behind it. In 1910, an educator named Abraham Flexner published a heavily funded report on American medical education. On its own terms, the Flexner Report did real good. It demanded that medical schools have laboratories, and it shut down a lot of genuine diploma mills. But it drew a hard, permanent line. Medicine, it argued, should rest exclusively on what could be measured in a laboratory and manufactured in a factory. The plant-based traditions, the ones built on bedside experience rather than the test tube, were judged to have no future. The states agreed. Licensing boards fell in line with the new standards, and those standards systematically favored one kind of medicine over another. They favored the patentable pharmaceutical, the compound a company could synthesize, bottle, and legally own, over the botanical extract that anyone could grow in a field. And that is the absolute center of this whole story. You cannot patent a wildflower. The California poppy grows for free on the side of the road. No company could corner it, brand it, or set its price. A laboratory molecule, on the other hand, could be owned outright and sold for whatever the market would bear. So the money, the research, and the prestige all flowed toward the molecules. The plants were left behind for one simple reason. There was nothing in them to sell. By 1934, the head of the Eclectic Physicians' Own Association admitted almost mournfully that they faced a stark choice: be absorbed by the dominant corporate system or fold. In 1939, the last Eclectic medical school in Cincinnati graduated its final class and closed its doors. The medical tradition that had vouched for the California poppy simply ceased to exist. The plant did not disappear. The highly trained people who knew how to use it did. For decades, that was the end of it. The poppy went back to being just a pretty flower by the roadside, and the science confidently moved on. Then, slowly, the laboratory circled back. In 1991, a team of French researchers published a study in the journal Planta Medica, testing what the old doctors had claimed. They found that an extract of the California poppy did, in fact, have measurable sedative and calming effects. Later work helped explain why. The plant's natural compounds appear to act on the same calming system in the brain that modern anti-anxiety drugs target, the GABA system, and on the specific receptor that benzodiazepine sedatives bind to. The old folk remedy, it turned out, had a real biological mechanism. In 2004, researchers ran a rigorous clinical trial, published in the journal Current Medical Research and Opinion. 264 patients with mild to moderate anxiety took part in a double-blind, placebo-controlled study. Here the detail matters, and it is worth being precise. The treatment was not California poppy alone. It was a fixed botanical combination of California poppy, hawthorn, and magnesium. That combination beat the placebo at easing anxiety over 3 months. So the poppy was one part of a team in that trial, not a solo act, but it earned its place on the team. Today, the medical recognition is official in at least one country. Health Canada permits a California poppy product to be sold specifically as a mild sedative and an aid for managing chronic pain. A modern government health authority is signing off on the same use of pharmacy catalogue described back in 1890. One honest word of caution, because this audience is sharp, and many of you take prescriptions. Because the plant works on that same calming system as prescription sedatives and anxiety medication. Anyone already taking those should talk with their own doctor before adding it. This is gentle, but it is not weightless. Here is the part of the story that should make you smile. While the institutions that vouched for the California poppy were closing their doors, the plant itself was being honored by the very state it was named for. In 1903, California named it the official state flower. It has held that title for more than a century. Every April, it still puts on the same show it put on for the native peoples who first used it. Whole hillsides go brilliant gold. In places like the Antelope Valley north of Los Angeles, the bloom is so vast that people drive for hours just to stand in an endless field of orange and look at it. You have almost certainly seen it without knowing what you were looking at. On a roadside, in a meadow, painted across a vintage postcard of California. That is the strange, poetic justice of this archive. The patented laboratory molecules that were supposed to replace it have their own long history now, including a devastating opioid crisis that has touched nearly every family in this country. And the gentle flower that careful doctors once reached for instead, the one no corporation could ever own, never went anywhere at all. It outlasted the catalog that praised it. It outlasted the colleges that studied it. It is still here, blooming for free, every single spring. It was never lost. We just stopped recognizing it. If a flower you have driven past 1,000 times turned out to carry a hidden history like this one, there are dozens more just like it waiting in the vault. Subscribe to Nature's Lost Vault, and the next one will open in your feed the moment it is ready.